What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be reviewing two very rare Daron Realtoy A320 models from the largest Spanish airline and the entire Realtoy fleet for this airline as well. And they are the Iberia Airlines Airbus A320 Old Livery and New Livery models and Airbus A350 single plane. So this is the entire Realtoy fleet of Iberia Airlines models, with the A320s being very rare and the A350 being very common. So the main stars of this particular video will of course be the two A320 models, with especially the Old Livery Iberia A320. This is honestly what I would consider to be one of the rarest A320 models Realtoy has ever produced. This has never been shown before in any other Daron Realtoy model review, and it personally is one of my most favorite models, so I will get into talking about this one and how I got it in a second. So I think this is the first and probably the only time I can say that none of these three models I purchased online. So starting off with the newest addition to my collection, the New Livery Iberia A320. This is a model that I just recently got from a trade with my good friend Daniel, or Daron Realtoy Aviation, on both Instagram and YouTube. He has an amazing Realtoy collection. Be sure to check him out. I have the links to his Instagram and YouTube channel, both linked in the description of this video. So then moving on to the Old Livery Iberia A320. This is a model that I got in early 2024 and have had for quite a while. I just never showed it in any pictures or videos before. This is a model that I'd also gotten from a trade/purchase from Realtoy Plane Collector on Instagram. I'm sure most Realtoy collectors know who Realtoy Plane Collector is on Instagram. He has one of the largest Realtoy collections in the world and has definitely over 90% of all Realtoy models ever produced. Be sure to definitely go check out his Instagram page. The link to his Instagram account is posted in the description of this video as well. And then last but not least, the Iberia A350. This is a model that I have also had for a few years now. This is a model that I'd gotten in person at Hobbytown, USA in Hickory, North Carolina. And I did go there a few months ago, and unfortunately, it does look like they no longer sell Daron planes at the one by me. I do know they have a good amount of locations around the US, and there are plenty of other locations that do still sell them, but I feel like within the next couple years or so, the store may eventually phase out from selling the Daron planes in store, and then you'll eventually just have to buy them online. But this is a model that I'd gotten in person, one of the few models in my collection that I was able to actually buy in person rather than simply just online. So really interesting thing for this entire Iberia fleet, the fact that the entire fleet for this airline, I had not purchased on eBay for any, or really just online at all for any of these models. So huge shout out to the two people I were able to get these, the A320 models from. I know these are extremely rare to find now, especially the Old Livery Iberia A320, and the New Livery one is surprisingly, increasingly becoming more rare. I have actually never even seen one listed on eBay, since the time I've been collecting, since early 2019. So, huge shout outs to them. Be sure to go check out their Instagram and YouTube pages linked in the description of this video. So moving on to the information and history behind all three of the Iberia models, starting off from oldest to newest with the Old Livery Iberia A320. So this model was produced from 2011 to 2013. It had the shortest production span between all three of the Iberia models. It was the first one produced and is of course the rarest. This model was sold only as an in-flight playset and sold on board Iberia flights and most likely inside airports as well, such as Madrid, which is where Iberia is based from. This model was distributed by the French distributor Shoutouts and is of course fully stickers. It goes around between both sides, and the livery design all over the plane and on the engines. And the model also has a real registration number, which I will get into later on for the full model review. Unfortunately, I do not have the in-flight playset for this model or for the New Livery Iberia A320. I just have the two planes for them, and then of course the A350, which only sold as a single plane. So I do not have playsets or vehicles for either of these two models. So, like I just said, the New Livery Iberia A320 was also only sold as an in-flight playset. This model was produced from 2015 until around 2019 or 2020, so it did have a longer production span, and it ended not too long ago. So this model was also sold on board Iberia flights and most likely inside airports. Also distributed by Socotec, and this model, unlike the old livery one, is actually fully painted. It is the only fully painted Iberia model, besides maybe some updated Daron one of the A350, but this is the only other fully painted Iberia model with an actual real registration number as well, and I do know that the playset for this model also had an exclusive sign in it. I'm not sure about the playset for the old livery one, but I do know the vehicles definitely looked really nice, and the whole playset box as well. The playset box for the old livery actually looked very different compared to the new livery A320. I do know that the new livery A320 inflight box did look pretty similar to the design on the A350, which I will show later on, but this one also does have a real registration number, which I also will get into later in the video. So moving on to the A350 model. So this one is the most recent and newest released of the Iberia models. It was first released sometime around 2018, and Realtoy did go out of business last year, so this exact model is no longer in production, but Daron did take over the production of these models and is producing their own version of it. I'm not sure if it still is fully stickers, but I do know all the Realtoy ones, or the ones that say Realtoy on the landing gear and produced by Realtoy, those ones are all fully stickers, and the new Daron ones might be fully painted. I don't plan on getting the new Daron one unless I decide to eventually get it in the next couple years, but for now, it might be fully painted or still stickers, or it might have a fully painted fuselage and the tail sticker. I'm not too sure. If anyone does have that model, let me know in the comments if that model is fully painted or not. So this model is the most common of the 3 Iberia models. It was sold worldwide and was the only one sold as a single plane in the single plane box. This model does not have a real registration number, so it cannot be put back to an actual aircraft, and this one also does not have as much detail as the new livery A320 does. Since the new livery A320 was a more exclusive model and was not a mass-produced plane like the A350 was, I'm not sure why, but I guess just for when Realtoy were producing the planes, that just kind of meant that more mass-produced planes were not going to have as much detail as the exclusive models, so which is of course unfortunate, but was just the case for these planes. So that pretty much is all the information and history behind all 3 of the Iberia models. So just some brief background information behind the Iberia Airline themselves. So Iberia Airlines is the national flag carrier of Spain and is the largest airline in the country. They were first founded in 1927 and are currently based in Madrid. Iberia has become one of the world's most significant airlines, especially for transatlantic travel, and has become the 6th largest airline in the world for revenue, and currently the 14th best as of 2024. Iberia has a fleet consisting of pretty much mostly all Airbus, with the A350 and A330 being their only 2 wide-body aircraft. And they also do have CRJ-1000 and ATR-72s, but they do not have a whole lot of them. I do know, from at least my perspective, Iberia is the most well-known airline for having the CRJ-1000 in their fleet, and I think they are the largest operator for the CRJ-1000 as well. There is a lot more history behind Iberia Airlines and just how much they've grown in the past century. In just 2 years, they will be celebrating their 100-year anniversary, which is obviously a huge milestone for any airline. So feel free to go research some more information about the history behind Iberia Airlines and how much they've grown and evolved within the past 100 years. So like I mentioned earlier, the old livery Iberia A320 is one of my most favorite Realtoy models that have ever been produced. I'm so grateful to have this in my collection just because of how rare this is. This model is definitely, I would consider it to be one of the rarest A320s, and definitely one on very high demand because of the amazing livery on it. The reason this one is one of my favorites is just because the livery design from when Iberia had it, had this as their main livery from 1977 until 2013 when they had introduced their new livery. Just honestly, this livery design looked really great on every single one of the aircraft that Iberia had in their fleet, and the time that they had this livery and operated it, they had a very diverse fleet, more than just the simple Airbus aircraft that they have now and the very simplified fleet that they have now. But Between the general vibrant colors that they have and the fact that they wrap around the entire plane and come together at the top of it, and the really nice logo on the tail, I just really like everything about the livery design on this plane. And for the Realtoy model itself, it actually is one of the most completely detailed A320 models, and definitely a plane that has one of the most detailed stickers on it, because I know Realtoy and Daron are definitely known for the lack of quality and detail in a good portion of their planes. I mean, for example, the Iberia A350 does not have a registration number or really any detail on the doors or anything else, but the Old Iberia A320 has the registration number, all of the small details between the doors, and then on the logo design, and I just think they put a lot of good detail and effort into designing this plane and the livery design. As for purchasing this model, I have never seen this listed on eBay before as a new listing or as a sold listing, or really on any websites to purchase as well. But if you do find it, I definitely highly recommend getting it right away, because it is such a nice model and will definitely sell out really, really fast. That pretty much is all the information and history behind all of the Iberia models. So now getting into the actual full model review for these planes. So same thing I did with the history, starting off from oldest to newest with these planes, with the full review for the Old Livery Iberia A320. So like usual, starting off with the front of the plane, there are their A320 cockpit windows in their usual black outline. These ones are slightly crooked. They aren't too bad as they are on some other models that I have, but you can see they are slightly crooked, but overall they really are not too noticeable. Moving on to the first part of the sticker here. This is something I actually don't recall noticing before, or at least remember seeing on any other Realtoy model, is this little red square right here at the front of the plane, right under the cockpit windows. So what I think this is the design for what would be the ground power unit on an actual aircraft, or for the design of it. I do remember seeing that on the certain Gemini Jets models, so that's what I think it is. For this plane there. I think that's really cool how Realtoy had incorporated that into the design and just made this even more detailed. Right behind that is, I'm not sure if this is the name of the plane or just writing that was on this particular aircraft. I'm not going to try pronouncing it, but I do think it translates to some sort of museum, Guggenheim Museum or something. I'm not too sure. So anyway, moving on to the first cabin door. Cabin doors is something that was really recognizable for this particular model, with having the amazing designs in the front there. You can see there is the latch to the small little window, and then all the other additional details that are there as well, with the red lines, and then just some other stuff there, with the emergency slide that would be underneath the door. And I'm not sure if you can see, but the actual outline for the door itself is more of a dashed line rather than just a strict, completely colored in, filled in line. And there also is the space above the door as well that you would see on an actual aircraft. So moving on from the first cabin door, there is the Airbus A320 logo right beneath the first cabin window on the aircraft, and this is where the livery design would start. So the yellow is pretty much the thickest line of the three colors and the three lines that are on the livery design. So especially up at the front here is where the yellow would be. You can see it definitely does not align, and the sticker itself is really kind of off-centered there and isn't placed too great. Which is one of the only downsides, but that is the same thing like it is for a lot of Realtoy models. So, but yeah, you can see the yellow line is the thickest of the three lines, and I think this is the middle color is supposed to be orange, as it is on the actual livery design from what I saw when I was researching it. But it definitely does not look orange. It looks to be more of a light red, almost more of a magenta color rather than orange. And then the third color and the darkest color is definitely a nice dark red for the color design on there. But yeah, so the color design for the livery starts pretty much right after in the corner of the first main cabin door on both sides of the plane. Same additional details there on each side for the ground power unit, the name, and then the details on the cabin door, and then the Airbus A320. So after the livery design colors, the three colors for the stripes that they start, is the Iberia logo with the Iberia in the bold italic all caps font, and then some additional Spanish writing right beside that as well. Great detail on the door plugs with the nice white outline, and then additional window details on there as well. On both engines, there is supposed to be the Iberia logo in the red coloring, the red bold, all caps, italic font. On both sides is a relatively small sticker, but unfortunately it is missing the sticker on the left-hand side of the plane. Considering that the plane is relatively old and getting up there in age, it is likely that the sticker just wore off on the adhesive and just ended up falling off on its own. I definitely do have some planes that are like that. Even new condition planes can have that same effect to it as well. So moving on from the door plugs and the emergency exits, the winglets are something on this plane that I'm actually not too fond of because they appear to be more of a light gray rather than just a basic white. I think it would have been cool if they incorporated some of the airline coloring as the red or the yellow into the winglets. I definitely think a yellow would have looked nice on the winglets, or the wingtips. Moving on from the wingtips is the rest of the cabin windows and the straight lines that go throughout the rest of the plane with the yellow, and then I'm just going to say the two shades of red. And then there is the registration number on this plane. So the registration number for this model is EC-HDT with the Spanish flag right next to that as well. So this is a real registration number for an actual Iberia A320. So the real aircraft with the registration number EC-HDT was first delivered new to Iberia on October 15th, 1999. It flew with the airline for almost 14 years until it was repainted, re-registered, and went to Iberia Express. So that was on September 19th of 2013 was when it was delivered to Iberia Express under the new registration number EC-LLE. So the aircraft flew with Iberia Express for about 10 years until it was eventually retired between September and October of 2023, and unfortunately has since been scrapped. But the good thing is that the aircraft did have a relatively long life with Iberia and had a lot of flying time with the airline as well. So going back to the review of the model, so right after the registration number with the Spanish flag, right behind it is the rear cabin door with all of the same really great details on there as well, with a latch, small window, and then the additional small details on the door as well. So then the livery design pretty much ends where the horizontal stabilizers are. Right there at the end of the horizontal stabilizer is where the final detail for the red design pretty much stops. And then on the tail is one of my most favorite parts of the model is the older Iberia logo, and personally I like it a lot better than the new one because the older logo was designed to have both the I and the B combined into the one logo. So you can see that the red is the I, and then when you put the yellow portion of the logo together with the red portion, it makes the B for Iberia. And then inside the I, or the dot for the I, is where the crown is for that is also included on the Spanish flag. So overall, I just think the design of this older livery was definitely much better than the newer one, and it had a lot more nicer detail on it. And then on the top of the tail is the last three letters from the registration number, HDT, on both sides of the plane there as well. And then on the underside of the plane, there's pretty much no further details on the undercarriage. And honestly, even when showing the plane like this, you really can't even tell the exact model type it is because of there being no further details on it. But there is the Realtoy logo on the main landing gear as well, since this model was pre-2015. Does not have the model stand included in the center of it. But there is the manufacturing date, which is September 30th of 2011, with the year being the first two numbers, and then the month being the second two, the third and fourth numbers, and then the date, the exact day being the final two numbers, or the fifth and the sixth numbers on the manufacturing date. So it pretty much is the entire review for the older livery Iberia A320. Like I said before, I just really love the overall design for this plane, and is definitely one of my favorite models. So moving on to the new livery Iberia A320. Like I also mentioned before, this model is fully painted, so there are no stickers that would come off on the plane or anything that really would be rubbing off on it. So starting off here with the cockpit windows on the model, Also has the A320 cockpit windows with the full blacked out cockpit windows as well. These ones also do look a little bit crooked and are kind of centered really high up on onto the aircraft, but I mean overall really isn't too noticeable when you hold it from the side. But this model also does appear to have the same GPU ground power unit as there is on the older livery model as well, right there underneath the cockpit windows with that little red square. This one is actually a lot more noticeable than it is on the older livery one, and you can definitely tell out the design a lot better than it is on the older livery on the stickers. This one also does have a name on the plane there as well. It is in a much smaller writing. This one does, I know, translates out to Save Your Deli, which is the writing right there is what that translates to in English. Right behind that is the first main cabin door. I'm not sure what the exactly this little dot is right here, but there is some nice detail on there with having that design next to it and then going into the full gray, but I'm not sure exactly what that dot is next to the cabin door. But not as much detail on these cabin doors as there are on the older livery one, the stickers one. But there still is some pretty nice good detail with the latch, what would be the window, and then additional red line for design there. And then there is the A320 logo is smaller on this one and is placed further back. Pretty much just says Airbus A320. I do like it better on the older one though. It is a lot more noticeable since it's black rather than gray, and it's a lot more it's larger to read, and just overall I think it's a lot better on the older one than it is on this one. Then there is the Iberia logo, which is still in the bright red coloring and all caps, but is no longer in italic and isn't as bold as it was on the older logo design. So compared to the older livery, the new livery pretty much went away with more of the yellow and just went back to having just the basic red, more brighter, vibrant red coloring, and then more of an orange rather than yellow. So there is the Iberia logo on the engines. I will say the Iberia logo on the newer engines definitely are better than they were on the older ones, since the older ones just showed the basic Iberia writing rather than having the logo in there in addition to it as well. But this one has the Iberia logo with their actual aircraft logo right next to it as well. This is pretty much represents the tail design of it, the overall tail design on the actual plane itself. So I guess it technically is similar to the older livery with having the overall logo on the tail, just since the actual tail itself pretty much is the logo for the airline and covers up the entire portion of the plane. I do like how they made it wrap around the entire plane, so that way at least this one is a lot more noticeable of what the aircraft is from the undercarriage rather than on the older livery, which really isn't too noticeable. But the door plugs on this model are nicely detailed as well, with having the nice outline and then the additional parts for the emergency exit there as well. And then the registration number on this plane is very small. I really think Realtoy could have made it a little bit larger and easier to read, but registration number on this plane is EC-IZK, and you can see there is a Spanish flag next to it and then the crown. I mean, even though it's very small, there is some really nice detail in there that you can see, but I really wished that Realtoy had made it a lot larger and easier to read when they were making and manufacturing this plane. I'm not sure if there really are any differences, because this model was manufactured for around 5 years. I'm not sure if all the models are exactly the same, since this one is one of the older ones. But just like on the older livery, this is a real registration number. But the weird thing is that this registration number was never actually used on any Iberia aircraft or A320 of some sort. It is real, but was never used for Iberia Airlines. So the registration number, EC-IZK, was for an A320 that was first delivered new to Spanair in June of 2004, flew with the airline until January of 2012. It was then delivered to Vueling Airlines in April of 2012 and was re-registered to EC-LQM and flew with that airline until March of 2020. Supposedly, the aircraft then went to United in February of 2021 and was re-registered to N1914U, but there is no record of the aircraft actually flying for United, but United did supposedly take ownership of the aircraft, but since then, there's no record of it actually flying, so it's possible that it was scrapped, but it most likely is still currently in storage until United might want to fly it. But I also find that odd because United is currently phasing out their older A320s, and now that this A320 would now be over 20 years old, I definitely think the aircraft would have been scrapped since United is phasing out all of their older planes. It wouldn't make sense for them to all of a sudden take delivery of an older A320 into their fleet that they never had before. So, pretty interesting history behind that. I'm really not sure why Realtoy decided to incorporate that registration number on this model, because there are plenty of Iberia A320s out there on registration numbers that they could have used. But, I mean, I guess like a lot of other registration numbers on certain Realtoy planes, they just really do not make much sense. But moving on from the registration number, unlike on the older livery, the newer livery A320 does not have any designs or coloring on the wingtips. They are pretty much just the same silver coloring as the rest of the wing is. There are some scuffs on it, but overall there really is no additional details on the wingtips for this model. So the tail has the red and then the yellow design coloring there, which is pretty much the entire new Iberia logo. So like I also mentioned before, I really like how the design actually goes around the entire bottom portion of the plane as well, so it makes it more recognizable from the undercarriage, as opposed to the old livery, which you hold it like this and you pretty much cannot tell what model it is. So I also forgot to mention the rear cabin door, pretty much the same exact designs as it is on the front one, with the latch, the small window, and then the additional designs there, and then the full complete gray outline. I also didn't mention that the main coloring for the additional details for the doors and then the cabin windows are more of a dark gray rather than black. So I definitely think it does look nice, incorporates with the all-white fuselage and then the more simplest design coloring, and then with the gray of the wings. I do think the gray was a nice choice, but I really think they should have made the Airbus A320 and then all of the smaller writings and stuff. I really think they should have made those a lot larger and easier to read. So the newer Iberia logo on the tail does not have any of the red anymore, any of the orange anymore. Even though the yellow here kind of does look more of a yellowish orange rather than just simply either orange or yellow, and it has the white line in between that as well. But overall, it is nice that they incorporated the coloring along the entire rear portion of the plane rather than just on the tail itself. But I really do just like the older livery a lot better than the newer livery, because it's a lot more vibrant and it has a lot more detail than the newer livery does. So as for the final details for the new livery A320, this one does not yet have the model stand hole right there for inside the Realtoy logo, but does have the Realtoy logo on the main landing gear. No additional details along the front of the undercarriage, and then you have the red portion that goes along from the top of the tail all the way down to wraps around the bottom portion of the undercarriage towards the rear. And then the manufacturing date for this model is January 18th of 2016. So this model would have been produced around the same year that they started adding the model stand holes, but this one did not get the update just yet. So I did do a little bit of research on the overall Iberia liveries themselves. As you can see here for the model, I also forgot to mention that before, this one does not stand still straight on the ground, but some of the planes do have that sort of defect for it, and there really is nothing you can do to fix it. But at least the whole thing isn't fully sitting back on the rear of the plane like I do have on some 747 models. But anyway, so moving on to some history behind the overall Iberia livery designs. So throughout the time that Iberia has been around, since 1927, they have had 3 main livery designs, which is actually a lot less than pretty much every other airline that has been around for that long. So the first main livery, I do not know the exact name for it, but it is more of their main retro livery, I guess is what you can call it. They've had since the airline started growing in the late 1930s and 1940s. It had some slight updates between the 50s and 60s, and it wasn't until 1977 when they introduced their main livery design. I'm not sure if there is an exact name for the specific design, but this is, of course, the classic livery that was used on the Realtoy A320. So this livery was first introduced in 1977 and was used for 36 years until 2013. This livery was their main livery design for branding and helped the airline grow a lot more within that 36 years. But by the time 2013 came, we were in need of a newer, more modern livery design, and that's when they introduced their new livery, which is called the New Horizons livery. So the whole purpose behind the design of this livery is pretty much to be a more minimalist design and have a revised logo to focus on more simplicity and elegance for the airline. But in my honest opinion, I just see the new livery as more of a too simple, and to me doesn't say elegance for an airline, especially for a really world major airline and for the national carrier of Spain. The colors definitely do represent the country, but I just definitely think they could have used a lot more specific designs for the livery rather than what they chose. Hopefully in another 30 years or so, when they update their livery again, they will incorporate some of the retro scheme into a newer livery and bring back some of the more vibrant details that they did on their classic livery. So moving on to the final aircraft in the Iberia fleet, the A350 single plane. So before I get into the review of the model, like usual for my other videos, I will do the box review first. So the entire box is pretty much in the Iberia red coloring and then has the additional details in their nice yellow-orange coloring. As you can see, for the cardboard box piece that sits inside the plane that the aircraft would sit on, that one is in the yellow-orange coloring and has the same design on the outside of the clear plastic case on the outside. So on the top of the box, there is the warning label, which is in both English and Spanish. And then there is some nice view of the newer Iberia logo right there. You can see the design there that would be for the tail, although this one is kind of switched inside out, where the red would usually be on the interior and then the orange would be on the top, but because they couldn't really do red since it would clash with the outside, they had to do the orange on there as well. So Iberia coloring in their all caps font there. And then on the bottom of the plane, there is the Daron logo with the die-cast metal and authentic details. There is no mention of the new livery designs, which is what they usually mention on most of the boxes, but they had to make way for their Spanish writing on there as well. So you see the item number on right below the Daron logo there as well. And on the sides, there is the Iberia logo in the same coloring there as well. And then moving on to the back portion, you see there is the Iberia logo on the top of the box as well, same thing as is on the front and then all the sides, and then the airplane logo, and then die-cast metal authentic details in Spanish as well. Really nice design concept for the boxer image, but I think in execution they could have done a little bit better because the A350 looks a little bit wacky right there for the cockpit. I definitely think they could have done better on that overall design, and the engines look really small too, so they need to work on that a little bit. But this is an relatively more older plane compared to the newer ones that they would have manufactured, so I'm assuming they probably would have updated the box since then. Hopefully the boxer image looks better than this one does. But you see a Daron logo in the bottom left-hand corner, and then there is the original price sticker there from when I got it from Hobbytown for $11. And the manufacturing date for this model is August 16th, 2019. So this is the newest one out of all three of the Iberia models. So moving on to the review of the A350 model, this is going to be the simplest of the three Iberia models. Specifically because for some reason, Realtoy always manufactured the common and worldwide distributed models as being very simple, rather than having the additional designs as the exclusive, more rare models. So starting off here with the front of the plane, there is the A350 cockpit windows with the recognizable raccoon mask is what they call it, which is the design that they have on A320neos, 21neos, A330neos, and then the A350s. So right behind the cockpit windows, or pretty much right beneath the cockpit windows, is the name on this aircraft. It pretty much is just says Madrid, which is the city and airport that the Iberia is based in. Behind that is the first main cabin door, very simple design with just the basic outline, a small window towards the side of it, and then the emergency slide design for the bottom. And right behind that is the beginning of the cabin windows, which for some reason these are more square rather than oval as they usually are on most other models. So going along the plane, there is the Iberia logo in their red coloring and the red full caps design there. And then I did notice here there is actually a window that is a lot larger than the rest of them, which I'm not sure if it's just some sort of manufacturing design issue with the stickers. Most likely because I'm not sure why there would be one window that's a lot larger than the rest of them, especially for a plane that does not have very specific realistic designs to it. So I'm sure that just is some sort of design issue manufacturing issue rather than actual specifically done on purpose. So same thing on both sides. You can see there is that the window there again. This one does have the stickers with the Iberia logo on the engines as well, with the Iberia font there, and then the actual logo design there. You can see has the yellow and then the red portion for the bottom. And at least these stickers do have better adhesive than the older ones, and they should stay on pretty nicely. I haven't had any issues with A350s, especially for the stickers at least. They have been pretty good. So there are no designs on the wingtips like there are on the older livery. So, like I also mentioned before, there is no registration number on this plane or any designs for the Spanish flag or the crown that there is on the new livery A320. So, you can see here that the overall design for the tail pretty much goes along from the tail down through half of the rear cabin door. And then the cabin door has the same designs as there are on all the others, with the small window on the corner and then the emergency side part on the bottom, and then with a yellow portion of the top of the tail going into the red along the bottom portion. But unfortunately, unlike the fully painted one, this one does not have the sticker going all the way around, specifically because of the screw that's in right here. They were not able to do that, but on fully painted ones, especially newer ones, they are able to actually do that and fully paint it. So this one does have the model stand hole right there with the Realtoy logo on it, on the main landing gear, and then there's pretty much no other designs on the undercarriage for the rest of the plane like on the other models. And then there is on the horizontal stabilizers, there is the manufacturing date, which again is August 16th of 2019. So very simple design for the Iberia A350. So yeah, that pretty much is the entire review for all of these models. So like you can say right here, there is a lot more design on the A320 rather than on the A350 between the registration number and additional details on the doors, the front of the plane. Like the A350 does not have the ground power unit that there is on the A320. There is no list of the aircraft type or anything. The wings are pretty much the same for overall detail, but yeah, I think considering that the A350 has a lot less detail, it would have been a lot easier for them to fully paint this one rather than the A320, but Realtoy just decided not to do that because it was going to be a mass-produced model rather than just an exclusive one like the A320 was. So, and then a quick comparison between both of the A320 models. You can definitely tell Iberia definitely had the major livery design update, similar to pretty much what American Airlines update was, and how major completely redesign of everything between the logo and overall look of the planes. The only thing that pretty much stayed the same is the overall white fuselage background. But yeah, I definitely like the older livery a lot better than the newer livery, especially for the logo on the tail. You can see the older logo had the I mixed in with the B, and you can see them separately as well and then together. So everything about the older livery and the logos I definitely just liked a lot better than their newer one, and I hope sometime in the future they'll be able to, whenever they come out with a new livery, I hope they go back to more of the retro design. So that pretty much is all the entire review for these models and for this video. So let me know down in the comments what your guys' opinions are on all of these planes, and if you have either of the A320s in your collection. I know the old livery A320 is definitely a very high demand model, very rare, and definitely a really unique plane for Realtoy collections, and definitely would add a really great pop of color in any collection there as well. So thank you all so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.